What's up, Canes fans? Peter Ariz here alongside DMoney, bringing you another edition of CanesInSight Live. Excited for this one tonight. Obviously, the start of spring practice and an exciting week at CanesInSight as we've launched the new CanesInSight Daily that DMoney has been dropping his knowledge that everyone gets on the CanesInSight website and forums, but we're getting it in video form now every single day. So go check out those videos that we've been dropping. Like, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss anything, because we're dropping more than we've ever dropped, especially, you know, on the YouTube channel and in form of the media content. So with all that being said, DMoney, who's been the star of the show, who's been killing it in front of the camera, welcome tonight, my friend.
Pleasure to be here. Love everybody coming out. These are my favorite, these little YouTube lives. Engage with the community. People could ask questions. We bring it together. CanesInSight really, usually you get the content first and then the community around the content. We were community first. Now we're starting to bring the content to you daily in a different way. So we're excited about that. But first, I want to say thank you to some of the folks that helped make this daily podcast possible. Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. You've been in an accident, entitled to compensation, potentially caused by someone else's negligence. Reach out to Anajar and Levine. These guys are experts. You don't want rookies on your case. This could be the case of your life. You want the best. You want people that have dealt with this so many times and have a team of experts, not just one guy they can call to help you through it. So take back control of your life. Call Anajar and Levine if you or someone you care about has been in an accident. Also, Canes wear. I've been wearing the Canes wear clothes. Had the Marlins throwback today, the Canes baseball shirt yesterday. Ton more stuff there. People know Canes wear is the best in the business. In store, the experience is outstanding. Plus, you can go to caneswear.com if you're out of state, maybe out of the county, and you want to get some great gear. Caneswear.com's got you covered for not only Miami Hurricanes, but all Miami local sports. So thank you guys for helping make the podcast possible, helping us do things like this with the community, and appreciate everybody in the comments. Again, man, we're going to keep coming, not just the daily podcast, not just multiple stories. We got recruiting stories dropping for the rest of the week, exclusives on CanesInSight. And of course, I'm going to give you everything I can give you, whether it's the first recruit you hear about in the bank or exclusive stuff from practice. That's what we're here to do. So, man, fire off the questions, hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you, Brad. And we're here for you guys, man. So whatever you guys want to talk about, we're here.
And again, Brad Tejeda, appreciate the shout out there. Hit that like and subscribe, everyone. So that's like we said, we're dropping, of course, the CanesInSight daily shows that D is putting out every day, and then all of the recruiting content that Brad and I are putting out there on the channel with all of these top 2025 prospects, new offers, things of that nature. So you do not want to miss everything that we've got going on the YouTube page and on CanesInSight.com as well. But I think we should start to get into some of these questions here, D. And again, keep them rolling, everyone on the live right now, and we'll get into some of the early impressions from the first few days of spring practice here.
Yeah, so guys, I'm seeing some questions we'll get to right now. By the way, tell your friends, that content's coming, and CanesInsight's coming for it all. We're back to work. T-Love42 wants to know, still have hope for Chase Smith. How's he looking? Can he crack the 2 deep? He's in the 2 deep right now. You have, with Francis Mauigoa out, KJ Cloud moving on to potential pro career. You have Wesley Basainth starting alongside Popo Aguirre. Again, this is nothing set in stone. This is just who walks out first to take reps. And then you have Chase Smith right in that next group with guys like Marcellus Pulliam and others. But Chase Smith definitely in that mix at linebacker. I think he's grown into a true linebacker, whereas before he might have been more of that striker, that nickel, where you'll see a Bobby Washington now. Sam, there's different ways you can call that position, but Bobby Washington, Cam Pruitt, Caleb Spencer, that's safety linebacker hybrid. Chase Smith might have been that coming out, but now he's putting on weight and he's a true linebacker after the injury, and he'll be in the mix. We'll see how he comes back. He was playing great in 2022 when he got hurt. Last year was kind of a wasted year, although he did get a sack in garbage time. Love to see Chase Smith come out and do something because he's got a lot of length and a lot of athletic ability.
Have some questions here about Chris Wheatley-Humphrey, who I know you've been pretty high on the first, couple of days of practice.
Yeah, Canes Cat Heat 305 was a great supporter of the show. Appreciate you asking, is Chris Wheatley-Humphrey playing defensive back or running back? Right now, he's definitely playing running back and looking really, really good. For one thing, I mean, we're really short at both positions, but you talk about running back, there's Fletcher out, AJ Allon out for camp. Chaney's gone. You got a lot of people that are out right now. Trevante Citizen still working his way back. So you need Chris Wheatley-Humphrey there. You see him there playing running back. And I got to tell you, he's doing a nice job. He's impressing people all offseason. I've been talking about him on the pod because he's been doing better than a lot of people thought. Kind of bigger than people thought, really taken to the weight program. He's not going to be Mr. Universe, but he's gained some weight and he's taller and longer than I think he got credit for. I compared him to Duke Johnson just because they were standing next to each other and they're about the same size. Duke is now helping with the program as a student assistant. And he kind of runs like Duke. I don't think he has a stiff arm or the physicality at Duke. I don't think he's going to be the all-time leading runner in Miami history, like Duke. But this is a guy that has a lot of lateral quickness, real great instincts. He just has a knack for finding open space and making guys miss in short areas. A lot of life in his feet, Chris Wheatley-Humphrey, and he's playing very, very well. Also a good receiver at the running back position.
D, we have a question here from Brad, and also this. He's asking about Elijah Arroyo, obviously coming back from injury. You talk about Elijah Arroyo, but I want you to talk about the other Elijah on the other side of the ball, because I think he might be a guy who can change the dynamic of this team defensively as a pass rusher.
Right. So you got a couple of Elijah, right? So start with Elijah Arroyo. Huge. There's a big tight end, a guy that was really a receiving tight end coming out of college, out of high school, but had the size of an inline blocking tight end and the toughness of an inline blocking tight end. So the receiving and blocking combo, I think that Arroyo brings is different than what you've seen with Riley Williams, more of a receiver, Cam McCormick, more of a blocker. Arroyo really does both. Smart guy, hard worker, really a Mario guy, although he's part of Manny's 2021 class. Injury set him back. He was out for the year. Then he comes back and he's just not – his knee was fine, but he was getting some hamstring issues and just was never the same. He looks great. He said it in the quote, I feel great. I feel like Elijah Arroyo. Watching him practice, I mean, he's running great. He's making contested catches. And talking to people around the program, they basically say this guy is a NFL legitimate tight end, a high NFL draft pick tight end if he could stay healthy, because he could do it all. And he has really there's nothing that he doesn't have when it comes to receiving and blocking and the intangible aspects. He's just a very complete tight end, probably one of the more complete tight ends in theory we've had. But he's got to put on the field. He's got to stay healthy. But so far, so good. Cam Ward really, really likes to throw to him. And you heard Shannon Dawson when they asked him about Arroyo in the press conference. They said, what can you tell us about Arroyo coming back? How important is it? It was like a long question. And Dawson's answer was just huge. Then he paused for a minute. And then said, this guy's a dude when he's healthy. So everybody wants to see him. And I think he's getting a lot of hype. Elijah Alston, the transfer from Marshall, who was playing that rush end role that you saw Jafari Harvey play a little bit last year. I think Alston's not bigger than Harvey. If anything, he might be smaller than Harvey. About this, let's say the same size, but more athletic, more impactful, high motor guy, a guy that Miami coaches think can get 10+ sacks in this system. And he's been playing a lot with Akeem Messidor out for spring, Nigel Lee Kelly out for spring. Nothing serious with either guy. But there's been some opportunities at defensive end, and Alston's been taking advantage with the starters.
Question here again from Canes Cats Heat 305. And if you missed, because his question here is about LT, Leonard Taylor, his draft stock. If you missed today's show, D really went in depth on Mario Cristobal, some of the guys that he recruited to Oregon who are now coming up for the draft now and all have an opportunity to get picked pretty high in this process, and then comparing it to guys at Miami, which obviously he still has a hand in because he's coaching here, but not guys that he handpicked in terms of the recruiting side. But we also got into the current draft stock of some of these guys after the combine. And Canes Cats Heat 305, asking about, LT's status, and he says projected, first round. Now you're saying sixth round. Who told him to leave, and is it because he didn't work? And I just want to address something, D, and it comes up a lot in the comments, and it's a common thing online where we hear, oh, this guy's getting bad advice. There's always going to be people that do give bad advice. But I've sat in those rooms, D, where I've sat in front of guys that, have not gone where they expected to be in the process. And we've told them that you're not going to get picked highly in this process. We've told them you're probably going to be undrafted or a late round pick. And a lot of times, there's some sort of, I don't want to say delusion, but guys believe in their abilities, right? You can give them all the proof and you can give them the real information from scouts. But at the end of the day, at a certain point, D, I think we have to start putting more of a, I don't want to, blame's not the word I'm putting, but more of a responsibility on the decisions that players make to leave, right? Because again, I've sat there and I've heard the information that ends up becoming the truth, right? And ends up becoming fact. And guys don't want to hear it, or it goes in one ear and out the other, right? So again, I'm not saying that's the case with these guys. I don't know their exact situations, right? But with Leonard Taylor, he didn't test as well as we thought he possibly could have. That was something that he was hanging on to, and his film wasn't great this year. His production wasn't great this year. When you see these mock drafts, which is something I said, in the show that we did today, the mock drafts are not always based off of what the scouts think. These are based off of, as early as these mock drafts come out, what the high school rankings were. LT showed a lot of flashes early in his early in his Miami career, right? And I'll be done here and I'll get back to you. But he's a very unfinished product. Another year would have helped him for sure. But yeah, that's where it is with him.
No, I think you said it very well. And I think what point you made is very important is the guys that make bad decisions to leave usually are making other bad decisions. And I'm not saying off the field, anything like that. But as far as the offseason that Leonard Taylor's having, it's not a good one. And he's a talented guy. So you question a lot because he should be playing a lot better. He should have played a lot better this year. He should have been testing a lot better. I think he's a better athlete than what he showed. And I wish he did stay because defensive tackles, they mature physically, they mature mentally. I think he had a lot that he could do to grow while he's in college and then goes to the pros as more a more mature player. But this is a decision he made, and the NFL is going to do what they do. It has nothing to do with anything Miami thinks or believes, right? They're going to do what they believe based on their evaluation of the player. I think Leonard Taylor has some God-given pass rush ability. He's had times. I remember there was a point in the offseason where he was locked in and looking good, and people were saying this guy's going to be a great player. Then he kind of lost his way a little bit. The physicality never came around. Very much a one-dimensional type of player trying to slip everything, use his athletic ability. To just off the field, the body maintenance, things like that was, showing itself here in the testing process. What more can you say? And I think it's unfortunate that he never had the great career here. Another top 10 player that hasn't developed at Miami. I think there's a lot of blame to go around. But at the end of the day, this is his career, and you hope that he starts maximizing his potential because he does have the ability to play for a long time and make a lot of money for his family with his pass rush ability as a defensive tackle, which is one of the most valuable commodities in the NFL. So wish him well. I'm glad he chose the U. I know we were all very happy when he picked us. You don't just lose that once he has a disappointing season or, disappointing end of his career. So I hope he really clicks from the NFL. I think it's going to start with his body and just really focused on maximizing his tools and self-discipline with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you just hope the light bulb goes off for him. And like you said, he's got the ability to make a lot of money. And the NFL is the great thing about it for these guys coming out who are as talented as him is if he comes in and he, I'm not going to say he's dominant year one, but if he can make a team, right, start to get in the rotation, if it really clicks for him year two, year three, they will pay him, right? And he has the ceiling to do that. But it's got to all come together for him. So
all right, people, we got some questions. We got some good questions here.
Yep.
So let's just start with Arab here. We'll pull him up. Yep. Oh, before the one about Ray.
Oh, excuse me.
You're good. So Arab's asking, what's up with Ray Nathaniel Joseph, the second-year player out of Edison, receiver, highly touted. Miami got it from Clemson. He was previously committed there. 5'9", 5'10", former running back who became a very explosive receiver who was excellent after the catch, excellent returner, and generated some buzz, but didn't break through last year. Hard worker, really smart kid academically. A lot of high expectations for him. He's blocked to a certain extent by Restrepo in the slot, but there's still a lot he can do. And he's had a very, very good beginning of spring. Now, look, we're talking about 2 practices in shells, so I don't want to get everybody too hyped up about who's doing good or bad. But he's out there. He's making plays. And I think with him, he is very similar to Brashard Smith in some ways. I think he's quicker than Brashard Smith, more fluid. But Brashard Smith was really a running back playing receiver. Nathaniel Joseph's worked on his hands and improved his hands and his route running, but he was a running back his whole early career. And you see that when he has the ball in his hands. So I think some of the stuff we did with Brashard to try to get the ball in his hands fast, even as a tailback, like you saw in Clemson, I think you can do some of that stuff with Ray, plus returns as well. So I think Ray, yeah, he may not take Restrepo's spot because Restrepo is such a great player, but he can take Brashard Smith's spot, and there's going to be opportunities with that. So that's something I think we would watch with Ray Joseph.
D, I wanted to shout out the 500 plus who are on this live right now real quick. I just wanted to let everyone know to, again, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and don't miss out on this right here. Look at everything we've been dropping the last few days. Everything we're talking about, we had this little discussion about LT, but we went in depth on all the Miami guys. Then yesterday, D broke down, obviously, that Xavier Restrepo reception was the talk of the town, but everything else from practice, prospect interviews, a breakdown of the air raid, and a discussion with a former college coach, a guy who coached at Miami, and Mike Zuckerman, and really got into things with him that you're not going to find anywhere else. So again, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well if you aren't already. And appreciate everyone who's on here as we continue to get through these questions.
Yeah, so yeah, it's going to get even bigger and better. We're going to be doing player interviews as well. That's something that's going to be going real heavy in a couple of weeks. Talk about current players on the team, a whole new thing for CanesInSight and really for this type of site. So a lot of fun stuff coming. And of course, I think where we made our name was giving you info that you're not going to get anywhere else first. Stuff that's not off the rack, but stuff that is proven to be true over time. So going to continue to get that too. And again, appreciate everybody on this live, all 566 people, man, like and subscribe and join the train. All right. Jack Harris got something for us, Pete. He's saying that Steve Kim keeps hyping up Elijah Lofton on Twitter Spaces. Steve's the man, and I will join him hyping up Elijah Lofton. A lot of Brevin Jordan comparisons for Elijah Lofton, similar size, smaller, H-back type tight ends that are also very good receivers, guys that used to be running backs or have running back ability. You saw Brevin Jordan's run after catch ability in the NFL playoffs this year when he had like a 70-yard, 60-yard touchdown. Big spot. Elijah Lofton ran for a bunch of touchdowns this year, including against teams like Central, Chaminade. He is a very, very, very talented player. Probably my overall favorite player in the class, just because I like tough football players. I don't like guys that you got to motivate. And this is someone you don't have to motivate. He's an animal. And I think the early returns on him, I've seen him up close. He's definitely not 6'3". He's probably 6'1", but extremely wide and strong. If he's a fullback, he's a huge fullback. He's a tight end. He's a very short tight end, but he's a very huge fullback, and he's someone that can line up wide, that is a weight room freak, can run routes. He's routed up people in one-on-ones without a problem, very polished, and he can run after the catch. We haven't seen that much of it because It's not full tackling yet at this point in the spring, but I think once they go full tackling in scrimmages and things like that, you'll see that aspect of Lofton's game. Also a great blocker. So Elijah Lofton, one of my favorite players in the class, that's the kind of guy we're going to win championships with. Not guys that we're questioning their motor. That's not or questioning their instincts. That's not how you win. You need guys that you don't have to worry about motivating. David Smith, what you got here? So David Smith wants to know, what's Cam's persona like with his teammates? Is he the vocal leader type or more lead by example? Lead by example, I would say. He's working on being more vocal. That was one of the criticisms. That was one of that was part of the feedback he got from scouts, is that to be more vocal, and he understands that. He's a very smart guy. He's a very business-like guy, professional. He's no goof off. So I think when someone tells him, hey, you got to speak up a little more, he'll do that because he knows it's important for his NFL career and for his career in general. But I think by nature, he'll be more of a lead by example guy. See, JT Raines wants to know, which freshman do you think will be immediate impacts this season? I would start with, let's see, Nightcar and JoJo Trader, both of whom were outstanding in the one-on-one drills last practice, just bombing people up. JoJo Trader so smooth in his routes, change of direction, change of speeds, body control, great hands, one-handed, two-handed, can adjust to the ball. Reminds me a little bit of DeAndre Hopkins, but he's smaller and smoother. Not as big, but he's getting stronger as he gets proper nutrition and everything else. So I would say JoJo Trader, Nightcar, who's been extremely productive throughout the camp, throughout his career, someone who just finds a way to make plays. I think both those guys get on the field quick. Jordan Lyle's not here yet, but I think with the running back room a little banged up, you could see him come in and play early. He's very much a complete back. He's coming from St. Thomas Aquinas. There you see JoJo Trader. Let's see him run around in the highlights. But Jordan Lyles.
Shout out to our guys at 305 Sports putting out that video there from practice.
Yeah, those guys are animals. But yeah, I would say those two receivers. Elijah Lofton, I think, will play early just because he does so many different things and he's physically ready to rock and roll. I think Justin Scott, who's not here yet either. These Catholic schools tend to get here later because they don't let you graduate early. That's why you see Lyle from St. Thomas Aquinas not here. Justin Scott from St. Ignatius, I want to say. Some saint up there in Chicago. But he's not here yet. I think when he gets here, he'll play a lot because of his size. Miami needs that kind of size at defensive tackle. They're a little small right now with Horton out. Josh Horton, who will come back soon. But if you get him and Justin Scott in there, now it's starting to look the part. So I'll say those two. I'd say Zaquan Patterson at safety. It's a thin position. He's already here. He's already getting in the mix. So those are some guys that I expect to play early. I might be leaving someone out, but those are some names that jump out.
Hey, we're at 700 here, D. Shout out to everyone who's on the stream right now. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Check out CanesInsight.com.
Love it. So, all right, so let's see. I got another question here from FTW 305 MDC saying Bain, Clark, and Messidor and Alston. What's the chance of this being a starting front four? I think you're going to get another defensive tackle in that mix. I don't think they'd want to play Bain and Messidor at defensive tackle, and then Alston's a small defensive end. You're a little small with that lineup. But what I think you're onto something in that third down, you could see Bain and Messidor move inside. Or you can see Bain and Messidor move inside. A guy like Elijah Alston on the outside, and then, I don't know, whatever defensive end, Nigel Lee Kelly, whoever's playing well as that other rusher. Maybe some guy that's a freshman like a Marquise Lightfoot emerges. Who knows? But I think you could see a pass rush package where you have Bain and Messidor inside. We haven't really seen Bain and Messidor play together at length, so that's going to be fun to watch.
D, I don't want to skip too far down the line, but our guy Chance Mack dropped a comment here. I think we were talking about Elijah Lofton, asking if Quad Hill was a comparison there.
Love it, Chance, the man, the king of the spaces. Yeah, so Quadrine Hill, more running back. Elijah Lofton can line up. First of all, Elijah Lofton's a lot wider. I mean, this is a big guy. He's like 250, and he looks it. And I think Elijah Lofton, what makes him unique is that he can also line up wide and run routes. So he's like a running back, but he's really also like a receiver. And then he's built like a fullback. So it's a weird combo of skills. But when you have that combo, it gives you the ability to you're not showing whether you're going to run or pass. You can use him in different roles. You can create mismatches in different ways. and he brings just a lot to the table. I'm a huge fan of Elijah Lofton, and he's going to be a very good player for the U.
All right, D. I'll let you pick the questions because I know you're the one who answers most of these. If I see something interesting, I'll pull it up. But
all right, H. Chiad wants to know: do you think Miami's the favorite to land DJ Pickett? I do. I think there's a need at corner. I think there's a lot of family ties there. I think it's a fit, but he's a big time player. He's 6'5" and he runs 10.6, so he'll get a lot of interest across the country. But I think Miami, who's recruiting him as a corner, will be able to sell him on early playing time, family ties, and a lot else. We'll see Travis Jackson, though. That's a new variable in this mix, the new defensive backs coach for Miami. Let's see the relationship he develops with Pickett. I don't think losing a die is going to set us back too far with it, but we'll see what Travis Jackson can do.
That leads me into this question here from T-Love42, asking about the secondary.
So here's my thing on the secondary. We are missing some people. So really you're missing Damari Brown, who's your top corner. You have your safeties there, but Damari Brown is a big guy missing. Stafford's been nicked up. I would love to see Stafford play more yesterday, but I don't think it's that serious. He could be back for spring. I haven't checked on it, but it didn't look to be a serious situation with him. So those are two corners that you need to play, particularly Damari Brown as a starter. But what I think you need is another player. Like they say safety, nickel, corner. I think Miami needs another playmaker in the secondary. What does that mean? I don't know. Like what position? We need somebody that makes tackles, that can blitz, that can get picks, that can make big plays. It sounds simple, but what I mean is, let's say we take a decent corner. That'll help our depth, but we have Darryl Porter, who's a good corner, Damari Brown, who can be a very good corner, and Jadis Richard, who has some talent. Those are some guys that can play. I want a guy that can make a difference in the secondary at any position, because then at safety, you got Powell, who was a starter for Washington. But do you rather have him in the nickel? Who knows? You have Savion Riley, who's a Vanderbilt kid, played most of the season for Vanderbilt. Wasn't, I guess, an official starter, played starter snaps. He can do some things, but I wouldn't say he's a playmaker at this point of his career. And Zaquan Patterson is a freshman. So Jaden Harris, another guy who I think is very solid, fast, physical, but would you see as a difference maker? No. So we need a difference-making defensive back seven player, however we can find him. If it's a nickel, if it's like one of these big nickel guys that's just a hell of a player, bring him in. If it's a great corner that's better than the three we got, great. If it's a safety that's plug-and-play starter and we can move Powell to nickel, great. We just need somebody that is a difference maker, not just a body at the defensive back position.
We got a question here from Slim P. Which player on the team is due to have a breakout season? I'll let you go first, and then I'll think of somebody.
I'll tell you who we need to have a breakout season. And breakouts might not be the right word for this, because this is a guy that was third in the ACC in receiving yards. But I'm very curious to see what Jacoby George does with Cam Ward, because I think Jacoby George looks a lot like the guys that Cam Ward played with at Washington State. Cam Ward loves to throw these balls down the sidelines where he throws where only his receiver can catch it and gives his receiver a chance to adjust to the ball and make a big play, which is Jacoby George's strength. Is, to me, if you ask me what makes Jacoby George very good, is tracking the ball and making contested catches where the DBs just can't even find it before Jacoby George. He finds the ball very fast and he has good ball skills. So I think that aspect of his game fits so perfectly with Ward that he can be very dynamic. And he was good last year, but inconsistent. And, of course, the penalties were mindless. Miami's going to look for receivers. They want another playmaker at receiver. There's going to be a lot of pressure on George. Restrepo is the man, so he's going to get a lot of catches. Arroyo could get a lot of catches. So I would say George, breakout player. I think he's the guy that the pressure's on to take the next step, is a better way to say it.
I got
round
one
pick. Yeah, go ahead.
I got one for you. Jaden Harris, you mentioned him the other day as a guy who they've got to take the starting spot from him at safety right now because he's with the ones. And he was coming on last year when Cam Kitchens was out. I actually have a clip here pulled up. Let me get it ready here because Mario was speaking pretty highly of him last year. Give me a second. And he's a guy who has all the physical tools. Let me play this clip real quick.
Harris. I mean, that guy, the guy that already was developing and playing well, that highlight is Jaden Harris. I mean, that guy's, you want to talk about a transition, a transformation, so to speak, of a guy that was playing on special teams and maybe not playing with a lot of confidence in our scheme is now as dependable as any player on our football team.
So, I mean, that was last October when he filled in when Cam Kitchens was out. Why not? I mean, he's got, like I said, he's got the talent. What is he? 6'1", 6'2", can run. I think he's a guy right there.
Yeah, that'd be huge. I'm a big fan of his because his attitude. He plays hard. He knows doesn't know it all about safety. He was a corner in high school at a small school, played running back too. So safety is a new position for him. And I think, like you mentioned, he has a lot of upside and room for development. This is an interesting question, though. I thought that answer would be easier about who the breakout player was, and I'm struggling with it, to be honest with you.
You've got a ton of candidates. Chris Johnson at the running back position. I mean, he's a pretty obvious answer as well.
If you ask me who we need to be the breakout player, I mentioned Jacoby George is one. Chris Johnson is a great one. Miami did not have long runs last year. Miami had great blocking, but Miami did not have long touchdown runs. I think Chris Johnson, with his ability to take a 20-yard run and turn it into a 70-yard run, is unique. This guy's very much similar to Devin Achane for the Dolphins. I think he's bigger than Devin Achane, but I think he's also just as fast, if not faster, just going by their track times, objective measure. He's also a natural running back. He can run. So Chris Johnson, to me, is somebody, and I think that was a great call when you brought him up, that we need him to be a breakout player. And I don't know. We'll see when the pads come on, but I think he has a chance. He's going to have a huge opportunity with Fletcher and A.J. Allen out.
Great question there, Slim P. You got us talking for a few minutes there. All right, D, I'll let you pull one up here.
Well, here's a question or a comment I like from John Futch. John Futch is saying that Jerome the Bus Bettis equals Lofton. Look, we could use running backs, and this guy can carry the ball. People say, oh, you're taking your tight end and turning it into a running back. First of all, as you mentioned on the last podcast, Pete, C.J. Donaldson from Miami did that for West Virginia. A Miami kid went to West Virginia as a tight end. Guy could catch the ball, ended up being a very productive running back for him, physical. I don't think you want Lofton to do that full time, but this is a guy that was running for multiple touchdowns against Central, against big-time teams. He can run, and he's big. And if you match him up in a way that you're too heavy, meaning your personnel's too heavy, you could line him up wide, now you have a mismatch. So there's a lot you could do with someone like Lofton, because if you respect him as a power runner, what happens when he lines up a receiver? There's a lot of things. What do you do split backs with him and Chris Johnson? A lot of different things you could do with him. But I like the idea. And I think that's something, by the way, that I've heard specifically, is that he could play running back. Hasn't happened yet, at least not that I've seen, but he could play running back in practice sooner than later. Let's see here. This is a great question here by FTW305MDC. Say
the last one here. Okay.
I wonder if Ward throws wet balls as good as TVD because it rains a lot in South Florida. Listen, I don't have that many questions about Ward as a player, in that the guy throws it great. I think he's super smart. He has some elusiveness. He has a quick release. He cares about football, cares about being good. There's not a lot that I question with Ward. One thing I do question with Ward, 8.5-inch hands. 10 inches is good hand size. 8.5 inches is not good. That's below average. And you saw with Ryan Tannehill, people would always joke, hey, Ryan Tannehill, small hands. Like it was a funny thing that he was getting criticized for that. But then you saw him when he played the games, he fumbled a lot. And when he got outside, he couldn't even make run pass decisions gripping the ball because he had to tuck it because his hands were too small. It affects how you play. And like FTW mentioned here, it affects your ability to grip the ball in the conditions. So that is a concern. And I don't know how you alleviate that other than just getting used to it. Now, listen, Washington State's not the sunniest place in the world. It rains there too, but he did have a lot of fumbles. So it'll be interesting to see. I think he's going to have to protect the ball better than he did, obviously. Some of it's going to be natural that he can't control, but he has to control the things he can't control as far as ball protection and being aware.
Hey, we're almost at 1,000 here, the live viewers. So hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We do these lives every Thursday night. And again, we now have the CanesInSight Daily Studio Show for you, where D is really dropping all sorts of nuggets. So hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the content we're dropping on top of the recruiting stuff that we're already doing and everything else. X's and O's breakdown, football school with Coach Zuck. So, I mean, this season is going to be, as a Canes fan, you got to be excited for the content that's coming from CanesInSight.
Yeah, we're making a huge investment. So whatever you've seen from us before, I'm sure you've always seen, our info, the accuracy and uniqueness of it, but we were consistent providing content. We were really a community first with the forums, the busiest forums on the web, 6.7 million posts, but the content was inconsistent. I'll be the first to admit it. We're changing that. It's coming every single day, and it's coming heavy, and it's going to be what you want. So if you're not seeing something, tell us. If there's something you want more of, tell us. Comments on the boards, Twitter, Insta, you know how to reach us. We want to give you guys what you want, and we have the ability to deliver it, and we're the commitment right now. So what's going to happen? So let's see. Slim P wants to know, what's the key position to watch moving forward the rest of spring? Yeah. I would say defensive back. Not that surprising of an answer, but defensive back's a big one. We need somebody to emerge there. We need Zaquan Patterson to get game ready because he's going to play a lot. So defensive back is one. And then I'd say running back, because you're light there. And if you can find someone that can help you a lot, like a Chris Johnson becoming a major factor, Trevante Citizen getting his juice back, that will help tremendously as well. So defensive back and running back. So while we're waiting for questions, get your questions in there. I'll keep it coming. But my overall impression of the squad is, obviously it's early, but there is a lot of confidence. And I could tell you, I was talking to somebody who is involved with the program and has always been very straight with me. Was very critical of the rosters in 2022. Thought we had some questions at quarterback in 2023. I'm talking about before the season. And really never has gotten too high or too low. Maybe too low, if anything. He told me, you guys are picking the right time to really take this media thing to a new level, to really start putting out content and investing in what you're doing. Your timing is very good because we're going to have a team this year. So when someone says something like that, who's historically been pretty negative or realistic, that catches my attention. And I think Cam Ward is the leading cause of all that, obviously. But you're also seeing some of the recruiting come into play on the offensive line, on the defense, some of the portal additions. This is not a team with huge holes, although defensive back could potentially get there if there's some injuries. But this is a team that's pretty consistent at all positions, and I think it's going to continue to add talent, probably 2 players at least from the portal, probably more in this next session. And then, of course, some recruits coming in like Justin Scott. You still have Ryan Mack coming in. I think he's someone that is probably going to be ready to play earlier than people think. Jordan Lyle, some others. Booker Pickett, who was outstanding in the All-Star games. So you're going to have some talent coming in. Plus, you got guys coming back from injury that you're not seeing out there right now, like a Josh Horton, the Malinois. There's good players that are on deck, ready to play, and you have some guys making plays right now in Greentree.
Another question from FTW is Zaquan Patterson a strong safety or a big nickel? I mean, listen, I'll let you answer, D, but to me, it's the same thing. Zaquan's going to be a matchup guy. He would be a guy that you'd line up against an Elijah Lofton, right? That's the sort of talent that he is.
If I had to say the weakness of his game, I would say coverage right now. So big nickel. The less he has to play man coverage, I think the better with Zaquan. I think the guy's an outstanding blitzer, as you saw in high school. I think he's very good against the run. I think he's a better athlete than people think, and he does have coverage ability. But I would say when it comes to just lining up and covering guys and playing man coverage, that wouldn't be where I put him to thrive. Meach Powell, a guy like Powell, he's a cover guy. He's the guy from Washington. He was a corner when he first came up in Washington, has now transitioned to more of a safety role, and at least at Washington he did. Now in Miami, he's playing a lot of nickel again. That's the kind of guy you want in nickel, someone that can cover, or a linebacker that is really more of a safety and brings that run presence. I think Zaquan's athletic enough to be a true safety. He's not a linebacker safety hybrid, like let's say a Cam Pruitt or a Bobby Washington, who you want in there maybe on rundowns. But he is very much a guy that his first strength is running, hitting, blitzing.
Here he is. I mean, again, our guys from 305 Sports posting this, and I mean, going through some drop back stuff and change of direction. So you get a little look at it.
Canes, you got a question here from Rick Darris, old friend. Are any of the non-starter linebackers showing any juice? I think the position that's showing a lot of juice is that Sam position I referenced earlier, which is you're seeing these corner / safeties playing the nickel. I would say put like a Meach Powell. But you're also on different downs, different circumstances, seeing linebackers that can run, like a Bobby Washington who runs 4.4, like Cam Pruitt from Mobile, Alabama, who is a safety linebacker hybrid with a lot of juice, a lot of striking ability, and Caleb Spencer, who was a safety last year, who really is going to grow into a linebacker type player. So you're seeing those guys at that Sam position, and those guys are running really, really well. And I find it interesting that you're seeing more of those guys on the field than maybe you did last year. Now, last spring, Bobby Washington played a lot, didn't play a lot when it came to the camp, to the real season. So who knows? But I think you're going to see some of those body types on the field. And Cam Pruitt's a true freshman from Mobile. He's someone that's opened a lot of eyes. I didn't mention him earlier as far as guys who can play right away, but I'll mention him now because I think this guy can run. I think he can tackle. I think he can cover.
Another question here from Canes Cat Seat 305. Are we going to take Marcelin? That's Ezekiel Marcelin this year from Champagnat. Pete, what are your thoughts on him since he's only 6 foot? D, we saw him on Sunday at the Under Armour Miami camp. We have an interview dropping with him as well. Had a chance to talk to him. Really respectful kid. Obviously, Central, those guys come college ready, right? So to me, that setting is not where he's going to shine, right? I mean, when the pads come on and there's popping and thumping, right? That's where he's really going to show his ability. But I think it took him a bit to get warmed up and into it. But by the end of the camp, he was showing that he was one of the best guys there for sure.
Yeah, I agree. He's more of a football player. I saw him at practice Monday, I think it was. He was at either Monday or Wednesday. He was there with his family, seemed very interested. A lot of Central guys, Roland Smith, Nathaniel Joseph, kind of showing him around. So he's somebody who I think is more of a traditional linebacker. He started off pretty rusty, or at least he didn't look very good early on in coverage at the Under Armour camp, but then he picked it up later, kind of figured out the timing, was breaking up a lot of passes at the end, but that's not a setting that's going to favor him. He's your typical linebacker that can run, tackle, very high IQ, longtime starter at Central, smart guy, hard worker. Physically, I'd say he's probably not what you've had the last couple of years with linebackers, but he's more than Corey Flagg. I'd say that.
Well, and D, I'll tell you this: if Wayne Steed didn't unfortunately have those knee issues, I think he would have been a guy who would have been a much bigger contributor during his time in Miami. But I mean, I think a similar mold there.
Let me say thank you, by the way, Eric Cooks, man.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was bringing up right now. Let me
appreciate you. Appreciate the support. Listen, you guys, this is about you guys. We were a community first, and now we're putting out the content, right? So we want the content to reflect the community, the kind of things you guys want, the kind of things you're interested in, the questions you want answered, and that's what we're here to do. Obviously, we're going to put the team first in everything, So we're never going to do anything to hurt the team. But anything that doesn't hurt the team, we want to give to you guys info-wise. And, I feel confident about our track record in the past. You look at the last recruiting class and how many names you heard from us first. I feel confident we can deliver that for you, and we're going to just crank it up, man. We're going to just keep doing it, and you tell us what you want, and we'll try to make it happen. So Greg Seidner wants to know, we're getting a few transfers after spring, so who's transferring out? Listen, there's going to be injury guys probably that could phase out. Zion Nelson still hasn't practiced. I've seen him walking around in pads, but he hasn't practiced yet. So we'll see what happens with him. Other guys with injury concerns, I think those would be the first guys to look to. You never know what happens. The portal is a weird thing, but guys are going to move on. That's just the nature of the beast. I don't think you need a ton in the portal as far as volume. There was before you'd have to patch up a whole team. Like you'd have to fill numerous spots at once. Now it's more about getting impact guys, an impact corner, an impact receiver, an impact safety, an impact defensive back. You just want guys that can make plays. You do not want to bring in guys that are similar to what you already have. If you bring someone in, it needs to be a player, and in my opinion, someone who's going to bring a little juice. I think that in my opinion, this is me speaking, the defense could use another tone setter. Somebody who maybe it's a nickel corner or nickel linebacker type that maybe he's not a perfect cover guy, but he brings a lot of physicality and instincts. Maybe it's a safety, like one of these Samoan safeties that's busting everybody's head. Who knows who enters the portal after spring? But I'd love to get a tone-setting defensive player that brings consistent energy, similar to what Restrepo is on offense. Bring that on defense. We had that with Jaquan Johnson, and I thought that's one of the reasons why that defense was so good, because you had Jaquan Johnson setting the tone. I think that's that type of player. Listen, obviously I love Sean Taylor, but you don't need that caliber of physical ability. You'd love to have it if you can, but just somebody who sets the tone and can play football and play with physicality. I think the defense needs one more of those kind of guys.
I'll let you pull up.
Let's see. Question about Citizen. How's he looking in drills? He's full go. He looks huge. I'll tell you that. The guy's huge physically. As far as how he's looking, we'll see. I think the test with him is going to be full contact. Until you see him get carries in a scrimmage, and maybe after that, maybe he gets carries and looks rusty. Then the next script, then he realizes he's not going to get hurt and he's flying. It's hard to say. All I can tell you is he's out there full speed playing. And just for context, guys, when we talk about practice, these guys are not practicing in full pads. They're practicing in shells. They don't have thigh pads. They're not tackling people to the ground. It is very much about learning the plays, getting in shape, fundamentals, but not and competition, but not what you'd see in a scrimmage at this point, even in team drills.
About 10 more minutes here before we wrap things up. I mean, appreciate everyone who's on the live right now. Keep getting those questions in. Again, like this video, subscribe to the channel as we continue to get some. We're getting a question here about Markeith Williams from New King God.
Has he put on weight? He looks kind of the same. I mean, he might have. I don't. It hasn't been noticeable like it was with Isaiah Horton, where Isaiah Horton looked like a whole new guy. Williams is playing. He had a beautiful interception. Yes, last practice. He's playing. He is out there. He's in the mix. It's a position that needs him. He has great instincts, but he needs to lock in and put it together and be reliable. And if he does have ball skills, and he does have some safety instincts that the team needs. I know Cam Kitchens was always very high in his ability, meaning Markeith Williams. So it's go time. He's out there.
Question about the defensive tackle position, which you've touched on a bit tonight, but if you want to talk about it a little bit more.
Sure. Love Jared Harrison Hunt. Love where he is as a 6-year player. I think he's a guy. Look, everybody could use more time, but he's a guy that really could use more time because of how raw he was coming out. So now in his 6th year, I think you're seeing him really take it to another level. I think he's going to be a really good player if he stays healthy. I like CJ Clark from NC State. Know what you're going to get. Marley Cook from Middle Tennessee. Doesn't look the part. He's small, but he's athletic and he's strong. So I'm curious to see him in full contact to see what he can do at this level. I wish we had Josh Horton out there, because Josh Horton just standing on the sidelines looks like an NFL D tackle. I mean, he is huge, and we know he's athletic. I think Justin Scott's going to be similar to Horton physically. So incomplete on defensive tackle. I want to see Horton. I want to see Scott. We need a little bit more size and athleticism there, but I think that's what Morrow's been recruiting the last 2 years, and you'll see that once they get everybody on the same page.
Question about the defensive backs in the 2025 class. We saw a couple of them last weekend. Ben Hanks, Amari Wallace, Bryce Fitzgerald, for example. Chris Ewald as well, someone we were very impressed with physically. Listen, length is one thing, but he's filling out nicely and is not a tiny corner out there by any means.
Yeah, I would say Ben Hanks, big-time target at defensive back, at cornerback, pure corner. I thought he was the best one that I saw at the Under Armour camp. Bryce Fitzgerald, super athlete, Pete. I know you interviewed him. That's on the CanesInSight YouTube. Check that interview out. We're also going to put it on the forums. I'm going to type it up and put it on the forums probably this weekend. But he is somebody who is super athletic, and they love what he can do at safety. One of the biggest ball hawks in the state since Camp Kitchens. So he's definitely a big target at DB. We talked about DJ Pickett earlier from Tampa, top 10 player on everybody's list. He's going to be a major target. Chris Ewald, Miami likes, just got a crystal ball to Miami. He looked bigger than I thought when I saw him up close. He's tall, and he's not as skinny as like a Ben Hanks or Cormani McLean. He has some size, not huge, but he'll be fine with his strength, and he's very tall. Has some ability. Other corners, Amari Wallace is someone who recently got a crystal ball to Miami. I know he didn't really test very well at the Under Armour camp, but I think he's someone probably a better player than a tester. Very productive, also a ball hawk, a lot of ball production, interception-wise, can play that nickel corner, smaller safety or nickel corner, just an instinctual guy, a football player more than a tester with Amari Wallace. So those are some names. I'm leaving some folks out, but those are names that jump out, at least as far as the local class, which I think Miami would love to do damage in because they think it's a strong group. And I can tell you, Pete, you were there. The Under Armour people were saying this is probably the best defensive back group they've seen in a while out of Miami, out of South Florida. It's not like when you had Pat Surtain and Tyson Campbell. It's not that level of thing, but it's better than in recent years.
Well, and they even had who's the kid from Georgia, Tay Harris, excuse me. And he at 200 pounds runs a 4.38. So it was a really good group out there for sure. And they were really good receivers. So it's easy to gauge what you have out there when you have, some good talent on the other side as well.
Absolutely. So Slim P wants to know if you could pick 3 receivers from the 25 class, who would y'all take? I haven't seen everybody in the country, so just guys that I've seen a little bit. Seeing Cortez Mills in camp, 100% take him, any class. He is a real receiver. I mean, he's 6'1". He's got big hands. He's good at going up and getting it. He's smooth in his routes. He seems to have good speed. He's skinny, but not to the point that you're too worried about it if he works hard. So Cortez Mills for sure. Vernell Brown's a very dynamic guy in Orlando. He brings a different dynamic. Love to get a guy like that. Jamie French has probably some of the – I don't know if he's not like a Jeremiah Smith, but I think he's very polished, pro-ready, college-ready, and he'll come in ready to play. So those are the 3 that jump out to me right now. I have not seen everybody. Mine really likes Tyler Williams out of a Riverview High School. He's someone that Miami likes. Miami loves Dallas Golden out of Tampa. That's a huge Miami target. Dallas Wilson. There's 2 Dallases in Tampa this year. But Dallas Wilson is a major Miami target, a receiver, big guy, Oregon commit. Definitely the body type Miami would like to add because they think they need more size at the skill positions. I think that's one of the complaints is that aside from Horton, they don't have a lot of size at receiver. Dallas Wilson fits in that. So I would say let's give Dallas Wilson the edge because of his size. I'd say Dallas Wilson, Jamie French, and Cortez Mills.
One of the interesting conversations out at the camp, which, we're out there with a lot of other media people, and, you're talking about recruiting classes and last year's class and stuff like that. And there was a conversation about JoJo Trader and where would he be ranked in this year's class nationally. And there was kind of a consensus that he would probably be the number 2 guy nationally right now if he was in this class, right? It's a little bit of a down year at receiver, but that's how good JoJo is. It was a stronger class of receiver this past class.
With JoJo, and I was never one that thought he was like a 5-star player. I thought he was a very good player, but I didn't think he was like a 5-star type of talent, like a Jeremiah Smith. I thought there was a pretty clear difference there. I think one thing I'm seeing now that he's on campus and he's getting a lot of hype. I mean, people in Miami are really, really excited about Trader. People that liked him in recruiting now love him. Let's put it that way, from seeing him up close. And I think with him, he's very skinny coming out, and not like genetically. I mean, he seemed to have some lean body type, but he didn't have much weight. And I think he's one of those kids that he will benefit a lot from the stability of being in a program where they're feeding you, working you out, and really putting your body through things it hasn't been through. Some kids come in already with that. I think Trader is similar to DJ Ivey, where DJ Ivey really did not have that stability until he got to Miami. Once he got to Miami, the weight came on very easily. By the time he came out, he was a very big defensive back, got a game ball his rookie year, played before hurting his knee for Cincinnati Bengals. A lot of it because of his size. That was not the case coming out. So I think Trader could be like that, where the size and strength comes on, the explosion gets even better, and he's always going to have that body control and smoothness. So Trader, someone I think is elevating his game, not just because his talent, but just because he's improving his body and his condition in this program, and he has more room to improve than some other players.
Couple more minutes here before we wrap things up. The last chance to get your questions in. Again, like this video, subscribe to the channel, check out all the content that we're dropping on the YouTube page, and of course, CanesInsight.com. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, everywhere on social, and we'll be there.
Yep. No, it's exciting time, man. So you've got practice tomorrow. So listen, if you want to hear about practice tomorrow, as soon as we can get it to you, it'll be sometime really shortly thereafter. I'm going to go straight from practice to meet up with Pete, and we'll record it and put it out. Like and subscribe, so you'll get that notification button. You'll know the latest from practice. It should be an exciting day tomorrow. I'll get you some recruiting scoop. I'll probably be dropping the bank probably sometime next week with the absolute latest. I think we got you some names early. Last time we dropped the bank, telling you about Gerald Pringle, a few others who ended up getting offers shortly thereafter. We're going to keep it going, and I'm going to get that for you guys. So Canes Cat Heat 305 wants to know, with running back recruiting, how will it go? Is it going to be whoever commits first? I think it's running back's interesting because maybe you're running back coach. So I think you're seeing his evaluations are different. He's offering guys that I may not have known about that he had over where he was previously at UCF and USF. So that's going to be a change. You're seeing Jared Pringle again from Tampa right there at USF. Was his first offer, speedster out of Armwood, then everybody offered. But he's somebody could be in the mix. I think you may get 2 guys. You may get a power back. We offered 2 power backs this week, one from Columbus, Ohio, the other from Florida, by way of, I believe, Canada. I think we offered 2 Canadian backs, right? Because the kid from
Shakai Mills Knight from
we offered Shakai Mills Knight from Chattanooga from Montreal, and then we offered a kid from Clearwater International Academy, which Raymond. Yep.
Is it Andre? No, I'm trying to think who
well, I don't know where he's
we
from.
Had it yesterday,
yeah. But Clearwater Academy tends to be international kids. So
Antoine Raymond.
Yeah. So those 2 guys, the Columbus kid and Raymond, are power backs. You saw their tape. All they do is running people over, breaking tackles. And then Gerard Pringle's very much a speed back, a track athlete. So I would be surprised if they take 2. And I think you're going to see the board continue to expand with merit and different names emerge. They're offering a lot of kids there, and I don't think that's going to stop.
All right, D. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up here. You know, tomorrow, like you said, we will have the practice report day 3. And, of course, you'll have the exclusive info from Greentree. And just keep it locked on CanesInSight. Like this video. Subscribe to the channel. Appreciate everyone for watching tonight.
Tell your friends. It's going to a new level. Go Canes.
Go Canes.